Oregon gets it done in one of the toughest places to play, Kinnick Stadium, where top 10 teams go to die, but they survive. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dylan Hildreth. This is the Dylan Hildreth Show, and we are going to be talking about all the games that happened thus far today. And as of recording, LSU and Alabama are going on right now, and if that game warrants a discussion, then I'll come back and discuss it. However, let's dive right on in. So, we have Oregon, Iowa leading off in a rainy, miserable, just slobber knocker type game, low scoring as expected. The 40.5 did not hit. And it was, it's the worst game you're ever going to see out of Dante Moore and this Oregon offense. He had some key players down coming into this game, and they still found a way to grind it out. Now, I did pick Iowa in this game. Oh, so close. But it was not because I thought that they were soft. We know Oregon is a tough, rough, physical team. I just thought it was I just thought with the rain, the matchup, it was really gonna play to more of what Iowa likes to do and really hamper that next dimension that Oregon can take this game to. And I was right on that part, but the final score, I was wrong, but also right if you bet with the points. So, but nonetheless, Dante Moore, 13 of 21, 112 and a pick. Noah Whittingham on the ground, 17 carries, 118 yards. And some heroic plays towards the end, leading down to the, a 39-yard field goal, win the game. But that, both teams, they played tremendously. And I tell you what, this game became 8 times more important. It was close to being 8 times more important if the Penn State Indiana game just went a little different. But we'll get into the Penn State Indiana game here in a few minutes. But you look, 3 of 10, 5 of 13. Iowa was actually 3 of 4 on fourth down. That was one hell of a stat. And Iowa with the lone penalty. Iowa, they played almost a perfect game considering the circumstances. They did have a couple turnovers, but only the one penalty, which was the kick that caused the safety. The punt, the first 2 punts, the long snapper just kind of airmailed it. The punter saved it the first time, but couldn't save it the second time. And then Mark Gronowski, he played really good. Let's see, from the AP, pretty much a recap. Dante Moore led the 10-play, 54-yard drive. And Mark Gronowski, he led the 12-play, 93-yard drive. And that's about when I cashed out, because I was like, oh, snap, that's not going to happen. But it did. And I was like, oh, crap. And then Oregon won, and I was like, oh, crap. So it was just kind of like, oh, crapping all around. It got a little smelly in here. But nonetheless. This was Big Ten football. at its finest. You have just a absolute stalemate for most of this game, and then towards the end, you have both quarterbacks rising to the occasion. But it was Oregon that got the ball last and was able to go out and get the win. Congrats to the Ducks. They earned it, every bit of it. And they may not control their own destiny. However, they do have some big games on the horizon. They got Minnesota. And no, that's not a big game. Let's not get ourselves here. Oregon's going to roll Minnesota. And then they got USC. That should be the game of the week. Could be the game of the week. But we're going to get into that scenario here in a minute with Iowa's future. And then at Washington. So they can get a couple of two more marquee victories before going off into the playoff. Now, their road to the Big Ten, to the Big Ten championship game, to try to defend their title, is a little difficult. So they can beat USC. I wonder how... Oh. They would need Indiana to lose twice, which isn't going to happen. Indiana has nothing left on their schedule. But I guess it would depend on the tiebreaker, the common opponents, which that would be tied. Because... Yeah, that would be tied because Oregon's one loss is Indiana, and Ohio State didn't play Indiana. And in this scenario, Ohio State's only loss would be to Michigan, but Oregon didn't play Michigan. So then... Jesus. Big Ten tie breakers. Football. Big Ten announces... So, common opponents, which is the same. The best cumulative winning percentage among all conference opponents, which would be the same. 3 and 4 would be the same. The highest. And then it goes to some metric. So, yeah, that's a headache and a half. So, no, we'd have to see on that. So, Oregon's path to the Big Ten isn't quite as clear as Michigan's. Michigan, they need an Oregon loss, they need a USC loss, and to upset Ohio State. Now, Iowa can help the Wolverines out next week, but they got to go in to the Coliseum and beat the Trojans, which has proven to be awfully difficult. I think, and because both their losses, they were on the road at Illinois, at Notre Dame. USC owns the head-to-head over Michigan, so they need a loss. Either Oregon or UCLA, and don't sleep on UCLA. They got a pretty solid little ball club going. So don't be sleeping on UCLA. USC's road is not as easy, is not very easy at all. Iowa. Then they got to go to Autzen, and then they got UCLA. So, and then Iowa's road. The Big Ten championship hope and the playoff hopes, they're dashed. But they do got USC, they got Michigan State, and they got Nebraska. So. And then, speaking of Indiana. They had themselves quite the uncomfortable matchup. Quite the uncomfortable game. I thought Indiana was going to walk away with this. And it looked like they were going to. Until they didn't. Until Penn State came roaring back. Fernando Mendoza, 19 of 30, 218, a touchdown and a pick. Ethan Grunkemeyer, Penn State's shiny new freshman quarterback after Drew Aller not coming back. 22 of 31, 219, touchdown and a pick. And along the road on Indiana's game-winning drive, he had some incredible catches. The one getting really overshadowed. Charlie Becker having a career game. He had 7 receptions coming into this game. He got 7 in this game alone. 118 yards. And had that incredible catch that led up to the catch that everybody's going to be talking about with Omar Cooper Jr. That catch in the back of the end zone. Absolutely insane. Now, this all wouldn't have been possible if Penn State would have been a little bit more aggressive on that third down with Ethan Grunkemeyer. You got to go aggressive. You got to be more aggressive than what you were there on that final drive. And this has been Penn State's MO. When they get into these situations, they no longer start playing to win. They begin to play to not lose. And that is what happened here. I get you want to get the ball into the hands of your best player, that being Nick Singleton. But you have to be going for the first down. That play that they ran, I don't know if Grunkemeyer was just playing a little too tight there, knowing the situation, or overthinking the situation, I should say, or what the case was. But that play with that little bleed out, that had no shot at a first down. You have to put your players in a situation to succeed, and that is not what happened there on Penn State's final drive, trying to ice the game. It did not happen. And Nick Singleton, man, he played like a man. 10 carries, 71 yards, 2 touchdowns. Had that 59-yarder that put Penn State back in this game. And then eventually gave them the lead late in this game. But Fernando Mendoza, the legend only grows. He had, you can call it a Heisman moment, I guess, but that Heisman moment, that moment isn't going to be coming until December 2nd. I believe that'd be December 2nd. No, it'd be December 6th. December 6th in Lucas Oil Stadium against the Buckeyes. That's where that moment's going to be coming. If he so has it. You look at the win probability chart over here. It got to all the way to 95.1. And then Nick Singleton happened. And it flipped all the way back to Penn State to 92.9. With just over 2 minutes left. And then they got tight. and then Indiana took it over. And that's that's something that Kurt Singetti has been able to just completely bypass. Mendoza didn't get tight. The offense nor defense, they got tight. Neither one of them got tight. Penn State, the pressure was on, and they played ultra safe. You have to keep the throttle down, especially if you're playing with house money. Penn State, you're playing with house money. You're 0-5 in the Big Ten. Play to win. That's why you didn't win. You played to not lose. And that's exactly what happened, especially on that final drive. And then you have the game that I caught the tail end of because it went a little long with overtime. And that was Auburn, Vanderbilt, DJ Durkin, his first game as the interim head coach. And it was... Geez, what happened to... Ashton Daniels. He played. Okay. Jackson Arnold get hurt? I'm trying to figure out exactly what the heck happened. I didn't watch it. I watched a little bit of this game. I watched about the final quarter-ish. But there is one moment that I do want to talk about. And that was in the fourth quarter when it was in the fourth quarter. It was 4th and short. And I think it ended up being a touchdown drive. No, here it was. You had this. Here it is. So it was 4th and 1. And you had the opportunity to kick the field goal. Kick the field goal. And go up 41-38 with a minute left. And, of course, Diego Pavia, he's saying, I want to go for it, coach. I want to go for it. If Clark Lee is going to bend the knee on such a stupid decision, there is no shot in hell that I would want him as my head coach. At all. This was an all-time moronic call that is going to get excused, and it's not going to get talked about because Vanderbilt ended up winning. Vandy is a team that is built on a house of cards, and Diego Pavia is literally holding this thing together. And I mean, he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's a good player. He's exciting to watch. But how long is this going to last? I wouldn't be making a big deal of it, but Vanderbilt's getting so much unbelievable hype that they're going to probably make the playoffs if they win out. And they're not a playoff team. You put Vanderbilt up against Iowa, they're losing. You put Vanderbilt up against USC, they are losing. You put them up against Texas Tech, BYU, Miami. They are losing that game. This is a team that is better than average for Vanderbilt. Don't get me wrong. But to say that they're a playoff team is laughable. Who's their marquee win? Missouri with a backup quarterback? A&M just thumped them. LSU? I mean, their coach is fired. They got boxed by Alabama. And Ty Simpson didn't play amazing in that game early on. They couldn't take advantage. South Carolina, well, everybody's beating South Carolina. Your two toughest games, you lost. Texas, where you had the comeback, but Texas was playing super soft defense for some ungodly reason. And then you got Kentucky, who's not that good. Then you have Tennessee, who knows where their head's going to be at from this game. Oh, jeez. That makes me want to vomit. New Mexico State. You know what? Yeah, we'll save it. We'll save that for full show. That'll be coming out on Monday. Yeah, Monday. So, all right. So, covered all the games that I wanted to cover. I was absolutely totally wrong on Georgia and Mississippi State. I own that. I was wrong. And then, but I was absolutely dead on with Texas Tech and BYU. You see, I didn't even turn this game on. This is the first time I'm looking at these stats. Aaron Morton, 17 of 32 and a touchdown. But it was the Texas Tech defense that I mentioned. They were going to show out, and they did. Bear Brockmeyer didn't play great, but again, this was the best defense he was going to see all year. And yeah. So yeah, BYU just they just went up against the buzzsaw. I mean, Texas Tech they are they're just on God mode when it comes to the Big 12. Nobody's touching Texas Tech. I mean, you look at the rest of their games. You got UCF and West Virginia. They're not getting touched. They're going to go on 11-1 to the Big 12 title game, where they will either see BYU or Cincinnati, both teams they have absolutely crushed. I wonder if BYU plays Cincinnati. They do. They do in a couple weeks. So, the winner of that game gets to get blown out again by Texas Tech. And I get the whole thing that it's very hard to beat a team twice in a calendar year. But Texas Tech is just on a different level. The Texas Tech, like BYU and Cincinnati, they're Big 12 good. Texas Tech is nationally good. So, and okay. And I think that's all that I got left to cover as far as this goes. I will bring up Washington gets upset in Camp Randall by the Badgers. Lot of mistakes happened in this game for Washington. They had a couple turnovers. Had the pick. had at least one fumble. Yep, fumble, which I think that set up the touchdown and the field goal, and that was the difference in that. And maybe this helps Luke Fickell's case. They're not gonna fire him. They already said Luke Fickell was gonna be coach in 2026, and okay, I guess. But Wisconsin's got to get the quarterback situation figured out if they ever want to return to the Bielema days, Brett Bielema days, of actually being contenders each and every single year. They got to get back to that, and the only way they're going to do that is getting themselves a quarterback. And right now, they don't have it. And they are well aware of that. They ran the ball 47 times and threw it 18. They were able to get the upset over the Washington. So, all right. That is all I got for you today. Thank you all for watching this mostly instant reaction of all the big games that happened today outside of LSU Alabama, which it's looking like it might be worth talking about, but we gotta see how this all turns out. So, all right. Make sure to like the video, subscribe. See you in the next one.